Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Grip Lock preview show of the Ledgestone Insurance Open. Well, actually, now it's just the Ledgestone Open. Used to be the Ledgestone Insurance Open. No Hunter this week, just myself. Hunter's out, so we'll just have a brief preview of the upcoming Plus event. I'm going to give you a rundown like we would normal, go over the course changes, notes, and as well as our predictions. We're going to have our pick'em as well, even though Hunter's not here. Pick'em is on my shoulders. So let's go ahead and break things down. So Ledgestone obviously is going to look a little bit different this year. This is a Plus event. So it's going to be a 4-round event. That's pretty typical of this event. But if you remember last season, one of the big changes was this event only took place at Eureka Temp. Historically, this event takes place at 2 courses. For MPO, that's Eureka Temp and Northwood Black. And for FPO, that's Northwood Black and Sunset Hills. But last season, because we had the Champions Cup needed a venue, they went to Northwood Black for that. So last year's Ledgestone only took place at 1 course for each division. Eureka Temp for the men, Sunset Hills for the women. This year, with Champions Cup not being at Northwood Black, finding a different venue over there at Swenson Park, we are back to our normal setup that we haven't seen since 2023. So this will be the classic setup where FPO are going to play rounds 1 and 4 at Northwood Black and 2 and 3 at Sunset Hills, the ball golf converted course. And then MPO are going to play rounds 1 and 4 at Eureka Temp and 2 and 3 right in the middle there at Northwood Black, similar to what we've seen in this tournament in the past. So we're going kind of back to the normal Ledgestone. Weather looks absolutely gorgeous this weekend. Should have just a light breeze, hot because it is, August, but shouldn't have any adverse weather, so scoring conditions should be exactly as they should be. Looking into the courses in specific, this event has stayed pretty similar over the years. It's pretty recognizable for a lot of the holes, like it or not. But there is one big change this year, and that is hole 1's tee pad. It's subtle if you're looking at the tee sign. You wouldn't really notice, but the first sign we actually got was Brody sent us a picture of it. I think that went up on Reddit. They basically have moved hole 1's tee. So if you're not familiar with that hole, you've got the over-the-water carry kind of to the dam where you're then throwing your upshot on the par 4. It can be very easy as long as you have the power. But this year they've moved the tee back just enough that you now have this low ceiling to contend with because they've moved behind the ceiling of one of the trees. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Could be a rough start for players, on the first tee box to have to stare that down. The picture certainly looks intimidating. We'll see how it actually plays. But other than that, this course is staying true to what it is. The Eureka Temp course is, I think they could make changes, but a lot of the holes are so, I don't want to say iconic because some people don't like the holes, but they have the baseball field hole and the water tower hole and, the par 4s and 5s that play alongside the water on the slanted fairways. A lot of this course is, kind of has its own identity that's very specific, and so they don't really make much changes with that, and this is the same thing this year. Northwood Black is another similar story, and anytime you're in the woods, you're going to see that as well. And then going over to, obviously, our third venue, Sunset Hills, is going to be pretty similar as well, but this one, being a partial golf course venue, is the most open one of the tournament. So just to kind of go over these courses in general, how they play. Obviously, if you've never seen it, Eureka Temp is quite a unique course. From a viewing standpoint, it's not too bad. It has some interesting ones. It's a very polarizing venue among the players. Some people love it. Some people hate it. It can be a little gimmicky, throwing over a baseball field and throwing through a bridge on one of the holes. But I think it does have some charm to it. It's just, some of the players don't happen to love it so much. But that course in general, it does favor power, but it doesn't require it. There are a lot of par 4s that are shorter where if you do get aggressive, it presents that option, but also has safe ones as well, except for the par 3s. The par 3s you'll find kind of are a one route thing to do, like whether you're throwing through the bridge or throwing over the baseball field. There aren't as many options on the par 3s, and there's some shorter par 3s mixed in there. But I find that the other holes, the power players or the aggressive players, there's roller options on other holes. There's a lot of space for them to work with. But if you don't have that power, you can just kind of chip around the course and do pretty well too, because the green approaches are a big part of this course just in general. Sunset Hills, the FPO will be playing there twice. We've seen this course a number of times. It's not super exciting. It's really stay out of the bunkers, stay out of trouble, stay out of that artificial OB, and it's going to be pretty open, so the power players will have fun there. Adversely, Northwood Black, nobody's going to be having fun. This course is all about survival. If you look back to 2023, the last time we had this tournament played in this format, its true format where you're playing both courses. This tournament's won in the woods at Northwood. I mean, you look at the leaderboard, and it definitely favors those accurate players. You'll see guys like Corey Ellis, James Proctor, Chris Dickerson higher up the leaderboard than normal. The FPO leaderboard, Missy Gannon, Owen Scoggins high up the leaderboard because you have to earn this tournament in the woods. I mean, Colbert Allen basically won this tournament in the woods a couple of years ago. So it's certainly going to be the huge factor, playing half the tournament there, both rounds in the middle for the men, the beginning and the end of the tournament for the women. That is something to look at. Before we jump into predictions, we're going to look at Edwin's stats here. He's got some things to showcase here, specifically Eureka Lake here. So average score per round landed Eureka Lake is the 23rd easiest course. So definitely sits like, I think that definitely puts it back quite a bit. It's not super easy being 23rd on the list. It's funny that it's worded that way because it's actually, I feel like that makes it towards the harder ones. There is a bit of OB to go to deal with there. I do think the big thing to contend with there is the OB, but it also is shreddable. We've seen players, when they're on, play very well at this course. If you look at the average feet per par stroke, it's the 17th longest course. So once again, not super long. You will see there is a 1,000-footer par 4 or par 5 rather. There are some par 3s that are quite long. Like I think the baseball one is about 476 feet. But there are also some shorter, chippier par 3s mixed in there. One thing that Eureka does do well is they mix in elevation. So certain holes that look like they're playing shorter actually play quite a bit longer because they are playing uphill. But if we look at the past performances, just targeting this course in general, you'll see last year Gannon Burr was the victor. Just playing at Eureka, actually kind of ran away with that tournament. But historically, Rickie Wysocki and Paul McBeth are very dominant at this course. I mean, Rickie won 3 Ledgestones back to back to back. Paul had a couple in this era as well, dating back to 2016. But 2 players that are obviously not at the top of their game anymore or in the best form if you look at Rick right now. So that's something to look for as you kind of make your predictions. There's not a ton of history surrounding the current dominant players other than somebody like Gannon, who obviously just won last year. Because if you look at their average finishing place, Rickie and Paul are at the top of that list as well, both significantly higher. Funny enough, the next person on that list is Kevin Jones, then Chris Dickerson. You see some interesting names pop in here. Some interesting things to note is Ezra Robinson and Isaac Robinson, 2 players you wouldn't think to have struggles at this course, both in 41st and 42nd ranked in past Ledgestone tournaments based on their average finishing place. And that is with 6 events each under their belt. So, yeah, pretty insane. Ezra Robinson's is so high, in fact, that, that's pretty surprising. So that's kind of all we've got really here from Edwin. Moving into specific players, we'll start with MPO here. Just go over some players that I'm looking at real briefly. Obviously, starting with Gannon Burr, just rated 1061, now 1 point off the highest rating of all time. He's the defending champ. Really, the only thing to wonder is if he's going to have a little bit of a World's hangover. Obviously, not only a World Championship, but he also just won a gold medal at the World Games. He's been doing a lot of traveling. This will be his first time event back in the States. So there's something to be noted there, but Gannon usually is pretty oblivious to that kind of thing. It's not something I would look into him with a lot. He's obviously very good at this course. If he can play well in the woods, that's going to be the key for everybody, and he can keep his head in the woods, he's certainly going to be very dangerous here. I think it's interesting to look at some of those players still hungry for wins like Rick that we mentioned, still trying to find his form. Hasn't gotten a win yet this season and has a lot of historical success at this tournament. You know, that's somebody that could definitely sneak up and grab their first win of the season. Also going to be interesting to see if players like Isaac and Ezra can overcome their tough tournaments here and have some solid finishes, because they certainly have been in very consistent form this season, and both of them continue to hunt down victories, especially Ezra, who just got one himself. I personally am looking towards a certain group of players in this tournament, in particular those crafty forehand players like Sullivan Tipton and Aaron Gossage. I think their ability to scramble and navigate this course is going to make them very dangerous. Also, not to mention, both of them have kind of been on hot streaks lately, playing pretty good golf. So I think Sully and Aaron Gossage are going to be two players that I'm looking at that may not be at the top of everybody's list, but look for one of them to make a splash. Also, some sleeper picks. Look at Andrew Marweed and Corey Ellis. Two fantastic putters. Both good, accurate players. Both have had success at this tournament in the past. So those are two other players in MPO that I like. But in general, like I said, this venue being won and lost so often in the woods, you can't just, you can really look and find anybody you want, because whoever's throwing the disc really well this weekend is going to have success. They're going to find success because, when you go to Northwood, you just have to hit lines over and over and over again. Keep the disc in play and attack when you can. And then those, that beginning and end at Eureka is all about just scoring as hot as possible to hopefully gain a little bit of a lead on day one and then make up whatever lead, whatever ground you lost in the woods on day 4, or continue to extend that lead. So I think MPO, look, and it's going to be a similar story for FPO, but look for maybe some surprising names. But I really like players like Soley and Aaron Gossage at this tournament. So moving over to FPO, FPO is going to be interesting because the European field has not made their way over yet, even though this is a plus event. We see this happen sometimes on either end of the European schedule. But one notable name that is returning to the lineup for FPO is Haley King. Haley King obviously has not been on tour since before the European swing. She hasn't been doing a full tour this year at all, but she's back in the lineup playing in the FPO division, and I think an interesting player to watch because last time she played this tournament in 2023, finished pretty highly, shown some decent promise this year when she has been on tour, so it's definitely somebody to keep an eye out for in this wide open field. Because what isn't wide open is Northwood, and obviously playing their first and last round there, we've seen this have a great effect on the tournament before. Last year, Hall and Hanley kind of runs away with this tournament a little bit, but that was just playing Eureka, or Sunset, rather. They're not going to just be out there. So I think you look for some surprising names on the leaderboard in this tournament. Maybe somebody like Valerie Mandujano. Maybe Kat Murch has a breakout tournament. I do think, seeing just straight chalk across this tournament is unlikely, and look for some insane swings in the FPO division, because we'll probably see something relatively chalky on days 2 and 3, but 1 and 4 at Northwood, you could see some crazy swings. So from 1 to 2, and then from 3 to 4 and 4 on, you might see a lot of moving up and down the leaderboard in the FPO division, as we typically do see in that division, but it'll be just emphasized by the venues they're at. So let's move on to some picks. I do have Hunter's picks. He sent them in. He was gracious to do that. So I will get everybody's picks in here. And then I'll move on to our collective picks for the Pick'em, which are obviously just going to be mine this week. So hopefully I don't mess it up for us, because I will definitely catch that blame. So Hunter's picks for MPO. He's got Gannon Burr winning, no surprise there, followed by Calvin Heimberg and Ezra Robinson. Ezra Robinson obviously riding in that hot streak a little bit after winning Turku. And Calvin still, just a few weeks ago became a major champion, if you can remember that, after all the craziness with Worlds that just went down. His FPO picks are Han Hanley taking it down, going back-to-back, and then Cadence Burge looking to reemerge back here stateside, and then Missy Gannon looking to kind of get back on the saddle after having some difficulties this season, not being quite so consistent. And then his dark horse pick is Chris Dickerson. No surprise there. He's been pretty good at these tournaments. Anytime you can pick a guy who's that proficient in the woods, at a tournament that's going to play Northwood twice, it makes sense. My picks, quite a bit different. I do have Gannon winning an MPO, but I've got AB in second. I think he's still very, very due for a win, and I think his power is going to afford him a lot if he can just survive at Northwood. We've seen him have his up and downs at that course, but I think he can get out of there, just throw a bunch of Lunas. That's the recipe. And then I do have Sullivan Tipton in third. Another guy really playing good golf, and I think he can thrive at this tournament. FPO, I do also have Holland winning. I think she's going to prevail. I think she's going to be able to survive in the woods and then just have enough. As long as she plays well at Sunset, we're going to find a lot about her in rounds 2 and 3. And then I have Owen Scoggins in second, coming off that world title, and I think going to be a player that is going to be effective surviving in the woods, and then also I think she can keep up at Eureka. Or at Sunset rather. I don't think that's going to be super difficult for her. And then I do have another sneaky pick for third for FPO, and that's Haley King. I think in the wide open field, she hasn't been touring a lot, but I think just kind of fresh game, like ready to go. I think Haley King could be a sneaky one in this tournament because there's not a ton of the top players in the field right now. My dark horse pick is Luke Taylor. Had a decent European trip, a couple holes that kind of knocked him out of the leaderboard higher up than he would have been. But I think he is another guy due for a good performance. So last thing I'm going to do here is our pick'em picks. I think we lost again to Tour Life and the thousands that make their picks last week. So this could be big. This is big for not only for us because the season is winding down, but also for my own self so that I don't mess this up for us. So I think with MPO, what I decided is we need to go Gannon because I just didn't, with this course, I just didn't like going any other direction because I think we're going to see unpredictability, but Gannon is the guy that's predictable. So I think we're going to take Gannon, and then I'm going to double up on my two kind of dark horse guys in Sully and Goose for our other two picks. Risky, perhaps, but I feel like one of those two, potentially both, but one of those two especially could have a really good tournament here or maybe even get a win. So, hopefully we land two out of those three in like the top five, and hopefully one of them gets the win. That'd be the goal there. FPO, a little bit chalkier. I'm going Holland and Own, both in that $4 tier, and then in the $2 tier taking Ella Hansen because I think she can shred at Sunset Hills. So, yeah, pretty chalky for FPO. I doubt theirs will be that much different. It'll be whether or not the Tour Life decided to take Haley King or not. But hopefully those picks get it done. But yeah, that's going to do it for our brief preview. Just myself today again. So hopefully that was all right for you guys listening. I appreciate you tuning in. Make sure to watch Ledgestone Open on the Disc Golf Network or wherever you like to consume it. Jomez the next day. This weekend, it should be a fun tournament. And remember, it's starting Thursday because this is a plus event. So we get 4 rounds of disc golf as we wind into a very exciting stretch of the season with a lot of really fun and important events. So make sure to watch that and then tune in on Monday. Hunter will be back in studio and we will break down everything that went down.